Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
So I found an interesting story on Infowars.com that I wanted to bring, and is Ken in the chat room?
Yeah.
I'm actually very curious if he'll call in and if he's heard of this, and I want to get his take on this. So the story comes via Infowars, and it was originally published on BizPackReview.com, an article written by Cheryl Carpenter Klimek. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. But there was a Trader Joe's grocery store that had they were set to build a store in a predominantly black neighborhood. And there was the Portland African American Leadership Forum sent a letter to city leaders back in December of last year saying that the plan would price residents out of the area and, quote, the group remains opposed to any development in northeast Portland that does not primarily benefit the black community. So they went on to say that basically this parcel of land that's been vacant, Trader Joe's wanted to put a store there. The property was valued at, I want to say it was $2.9 million, but in order to get the development, it was sold for approximately $500,000, so that Trader Joe's could go in order to an attempt to build the community up. But what was said is really kind of interesting. They said that Trader Joe's would increase displacement of low-income residents. And this is a quote from the letter now. And you can actually find the letter if you Google Portland African American Leadership Forum letter regarding Trader Joe's. You can actually read the entire letter, and it's quite interesting. But a quote from the letter. This Trader Joe's would, quote, increase the desirability of the neighborhood for non-oppressed populations. So they want to block a Trader Joe's, which brings tax revenue into their city.
Big
right?
tax revenue, too.
It brings jobs into their city.
Mm-hmm.
It increases the desirability of the neighborhood. How is that bad? Am I missing something?
When you first sent this article, I thought...
You thought it was a joke.
I really kind of did.
No, I know you did.
I am,
based on your response, the text message response I got.
I cannot believe that any community... Listen, if you've never been to a Trader Joe's and if there's not a Trader Joe's near you, first of all, they have a huge selection of food. They're pretty reasonably priced. I mean...
It is. And it's good food.
And it's good food. I cannot imagine anybody not wanting to, especially in an area that the city's trying to redevelop and get the economy going and get jobs back into that neighborhood. Trader Joe's hires all locals. You know what I mean? They actually, one of their hiring practices to try to get people from that community, so they're investing in that community. They want to be that neighborhood market on the corner, that you go in and you see your buddy working the counter and your friend or whatever. So you have this business that says, hey, you know what? Maybe we can build a business. We can help each other. You guys give us the land. We'll build up on this. We'll hire some people, get some people back to work. They treat their employees very well from what I understand.
Yep.
It's win-win. But now here's this group and who turns around and says, well, it's going to bring what was the exact quote? Raise the desire of the non-oppressed to come to our community?
No, raise the desirability of the neighborhood.
Right.
And bring the non-oppressed in.
Yes, that's what it says. Now, explain this to me.
I can't explain this. And that they oppose any effort that does not benefit any primarily black or African American people.
Right. And how is that
not racist?
Well, it's not racist.
It's not racist?
I mean, no, it is racist.
So what if we sent a letter saying, hey, you know what, we don't like that business because it doesn't benefit primarily white Americans?
Yeah. Can you imagine? People would lose their minds, absolutely lose their minds.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been to a couple Trader Joe's, and it's not all white people working there. I mean, I don't know what their hiring practices
or shopping there,
right? But the point is you have this business that's still a rising business. It's still a good business model. They're expanding like crazy. Reactionaries in the chat room says that they're filled with useless hippies, and I agree to a point.
Who, Trader Joe's?
Yeah.
They are.
I agree to a point.
To a point.
because I go in there occasionally, and I am not a useless hippie. But
no, you have some use.
It doesn't matter. You replace Trader Joe's with any company
mm-hmm.
that has a reasonable price for a good product, that hires the community, gives back to the community, and they want to go into places that have been hard hit by this economy. Last time I checked, I didn't think we're out of this whole little recession that we've been in for the last.
No, we're not.
And they want to invest in your community, and you're going to say no because essentially, and what they're saying is it brings too many white people here.
Basically, it increases the desirability of the neighborhood to non-oppressed populations, thereby increasing the economic pressures that are responsible for the displacement of low-income and black residents. So what they're saying is if the desirability of the location in the neighborhood go up, then it will essentially price the current low-income residents out, and they will have to move from their neighborhood because they will not be able to afford the price, the rent increases and so forth. So one of the things they mentioned in their letter is they wanted them to put X number of low-income housing available above the Trader Joe's.
And Trader Joe said, well, when they first...
Trader Joe's pulled out. Trader Joe said,
listen.
listen.
Once they got the letter, they said, no, we don't get involved in these sort of instances.
Right.
We're not here for politics. We're not here to prove points.
Right.
We're here to open a business.
Yep. Hey, you don't want our money? You don't want the jobs? Fine. But
now you look at, a couple hundred people in that community could have had a job. Never mind the building of it, the construction of it, all that stuff where people could have gone back to work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
This blight in the community that was this empty field where it's just, you've seen empty fields in cities all the time where it's just overgrown and nasty. That would be gone. They have a nice parking lot. They maintain their property.
Well, yeah, why do you want a desirable location? You don't want something desirable in your city. Why would you want something desirable in the part of the city that you live in?
And
then it might increase property values.
The simple fact that the people that are in charge of this letter would even write this letter this way. Now, if they turn around and said, hey, can you do me a favor, work with the local high school and training programs to help kids get jobs as part of this agreement, okay, that's a reasonable request.
That's reasonable.
Right. Something to that effect.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey, is there a program, maybe there we have a higher level of whatever. Yes, we have a higher level of students that need some kind of job skills, like you said.
Hey, you know what? We have a local trade school. Can you bring them in during the building and help them learn how to build a building? Something that would benefit said community.
Right.
But to turn around and just say, hey, you know what? No, sorry. This is just going to cause way too many rich people to show up here and spend their money in the community, and it's going to go back.
Yeah, this is going to generate revenue.
People don't understand how taxes work when they don't pay them for a long time.
Why are members of the community not upset at this? Why are they not saying, hey, wait a second?
They're pissed.
I don't think they are.
Again, it starts getting into the two-party system and the people speaking for other people, being outraged on behalf of other people. I guarantee you there's a large percentage in that community who said, well, what are you doing? I haven't worked in 2 years. I want to go back to work. There, as much as we talk about the welfare state level, there's still those people that want that drive, that want that job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if they speak for this entire community, as they say, but as soon as that one person says, well, wait a minute, I wanted that. Well, no, you didn't. Is pretty much what they're saying.
Right, you didn't, because here's what happened. They were just trying to price you out of your home. They don't want you to live in your neighborhood anymore. Really? Because I could have had a job, and if the rents go up, and I could have had a job at this new place or building it, or if my son, because he wants extra money for high school or whatever, could have gotten a job bagging here or whatever.
Yeah. I was a produce manager for 15 years before my store closed down, and maybe I could be a produce manager. What I'm saying is you don't shun opportunity when it's placed in front of you.
Look, I saw the story. I was quite angry. I wanted to forward that on to you and kind of discuss it real briefly and see.
Well, thank you. I'm angry too now.
Well, yeah, you're an angry white guy. That's what you are. You're just angry all the time. That's what you do.
Hey, a story we brought to you a couple of weeks ago. We talked about Wyoming and the EPA essentially trying to rewrite the state line in Wyoming by taking
1 million acres.
1 million acres and giving it back to the Native American tribe, as they say, et cetera, et cetera. Quick follow on that is the state of Wyoming is officially gearing up to fight them and essentially saying no, it's the ridiculous decision, it's arbitrary and wrong, and we need to correct this. So that's going to be an interesting state versus federal lawsuit. That's going to be a good separation of state.
Look, it's going to be a 10th Amendment case. How can the federal government, a federal agency in the executive branch, cannot override a law that was passed by Congress and take 1 million acres away from a state and arbitrarily give it to essentially another nation?
Right.
Correct?
Yeah. I mean, it still falls under. Well, no, it gives it back to the feds.
No, it gives it back to it's Indian land. It gives it back
but the Indian land is overseen by the feds. At the end of the day, the feds oversee everything on the Indian land. Their peace officers, their laws, their all that.
But they have treaties in place with the Indian nation because they are sovereign. It is sovereign land.
There's this guise that it is sovereign land.
Right.
However, the feds run it. So the feds essentially just took back 1 million.
They can't run it because it's sovereign.
Okay.
What are you not understanding, Sean?
Sorry.
Are you saying the federal government is creating an illusion of freedom?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I am. And I think that's going to be interesting.
Everything's a conspiracy with you.
It's going to be fun to see where that court case goes and how it turns out. Because, like you said, huge 10th Amendment issue right there. And this is an executive branch going after a state and taking its land away. So big deal. Big deal.
It's the EPA.
It's the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency.
So a federal court, North Carolina had a license plate. It said "Choose Life" on it. So you could pay. It's North Carolina's anti-abortion license plates, and somebody brought a lawsuit saying, "Well, you can't have this "Choose Life" plate. It's unconstitutional."
Why?
Well, because Roe versus Wade is written into the Constitution, Sean.
That has nothing to do with license plate.
What? Right. So this North Carolina, this 3-judge panel in the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously upheld a federal judge's ruling that the Choose Life license plate is unconstitutional on the grounds that the state does not provide the same forum for motorists on the other side of the issue. You know what I say? If you don't want that license plate,
I was just going to say,
don't get that license plate and put a bumper sticker on that says "abort babies." I don't care, right?
Right. If that's really what you believe.
If that's what you believe.
My first question was going to be: is it
get
on
a bumper
every
sticker.
license plate?
No.
And here's the other thing too, and people kind of forget about this: you don't have to own a car and drive it. There's no law.
No.
It's
a privilege.
It's a privilege, and this is why I know a lot of conservatives are going to kind of yell at us a little bit about this one, but it is a privilege. That's why they can take your license away. That's why they can tell you not to drive.
Right.
Driving is a privilege. It's not necessarily a right.
You don't have to do it.
The simple fact that this is even a question is insane to me. What if I hate whales? Because I live in California.
You can't hate whales.
And there's a Save the Whales license plate somewhere. And I don't personally hate whales, but what if I was the guy that was on that little rowboat a couple months ago that the whale came and landed on and destroyed my...
Right.
What if I wanted to turn... Can you imagine people would be like, how can you be against whales? What are you, an idiot?
Instead of save the whales, you're like, kill the whales.
People would lose their mind.
Kill the whales, beat them like a harp seal. Hit 2 of them at one time. We should try it. Yes. Let's get a Kill the Whales campaign. You mean killer whales? No, kill the whales.
We will be rounded up and drowned.
So what? But we know we're being ridiculous.
I know
we need to get sackhead bumper stickers made up that says "Kill the Whales."
Sackhead's radio. Kill the whales.
Kill the whales. Beat them like a harp seal. Like just totally. You don't have to display this license plate. Right. You're paying to have this license plate.
There should be 0 lawsuits.
And, of course, the ACLU was involved in this, right?
Oh, those go-getters?
Yeah.
When is somebody going to file a suit against the ACLU to exist?
Well, they're protecting civil liberties, Sean. That's what you don't understand.
You're right. They're lining their pockets is what they're doing. But that's fine. I don't understand that.
Right.
Hey, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. By all means.
Speaking of wasted money,
the
president this week signed an executive order raising the minimum wage for federal employees and their contractors, and it's a small percentage.
So just a small percentage of them.
That's a precedence.
A precedence?
It's a precedence.
Yeah, he is the president, so I don't know.
And I think it's $10.15 an hour, And we were talking earlier, about, hey, it's the executive. He's in charge of the executive. He wants to give his people raises.
Mm-hmm.
He can, but then it goes down to Congress, and Congress has the purse strings. The simple fact is he said in the State of the Union address he wanted to do this. He expected every state to raise the minimum wage, even if he couldn't get Congress to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to states, hey, if your state has the revenue to generate to do that, and that's something that you want to do, great, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
To impose the federal minimum wage to raise to $10.15, which is what his target goal is, $10.15 an hour. That's $3 plus. Now you start multiplying that by, we have 314 million people, less than 50% make, I think it's like more than minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, 170 something? I'm not great at math, but 100.
I don't know. Get the calculator out. You got a smartphone, right? Right.
Times 3 per hour. That now we're going to have to pick up the tab for. Somebody's going to have to.
Yeah, but
and
okay,
now look
but
at what
he
that
had
does
to.
to inflation.
And now you know why we had to raise the debt ceiling. Come on, Sean. It's all connected.
Because gas prices are already through the roof. You look at guys that maybe drive truck that not long-term tractor trailer guys, but just maybe food delivery or something like that. Or it starts adding in even more onto the small businesses who, by the way, in a few months, even though that he once again passed off another executive order saying that small businesses don't have to impose Obamacare for another year, I think it was.
So that's good.
Once again, violating his own law that he made. Not a big deal.
He didn't make it.
Well, he didn't make it. He just urged it.
Congress made it, and he's just tweaking it on his own free will.
Are you having a dance party over there? That's awesome. And either way. But now small businesses are going to take a hit when Obamacare comes in. And now they're going to try to force it. And this is going to be I'm telling you right now, folks, I give it 16 months before you see this come up to Congress for them to try to pass the federal minimum wage up to $10 an hour minimum. Because what they're doing is they've essentially giving up on kids making themselves better and young adults making themselves better and more able to do harder jobs than entry-level jobs.
They should just do away with entry-level jobs. Look, if you do away with entry-level jobs, what?
But they're essentially saying, we've given up on these kids to do this, so they're going to be stuck working at McDonald's when they're 60, but not as like the manager or like a franchise owner, the guy who's sweeping the floor in the parking lot. They've given up on those folks and said that we got to make sure that they make enough money because they're not going to be able to do it for themselves. That's an insult to us as a nation, us being workers and fighters and the people.
Look, it's going to kill jobs is what it's going to do. They're still going to have those jobs are still going to be low-paying entry-level jobs, but now because you have to pay more for that position, you're just going to have to cut positions. So they're doing away with – they're essentially going to kill those jobs.
And it's going to make inflation go up, and then the offset's not even going to really –
Yeah, if they're killing the jobs, though, I mean, the businesses are still – they may be spending the same amount of money. They're just going to have fewer employees, which maybe offsets healthcare costs or whatever else. But look, you can't legislate economic equality.
Right.
You can try it all you want, but you can't do it.
In the history of the world, it has never been successful.
It hasn't. You have to have some form of entry-level job. And I was being sarcastic, but listen, if you do away with all entry-level jobs, you don't have to worry about minimum wage anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't exist. Minimum wage jobs don't exist. Everybody's making $50 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I was being ridiculous, but essentially that's kind of what he's trying to accomplish.
And that's what in his weird mindset thinks that's going to be successful.
We have 8 minutes. I want to talk about we've always covered stories where states have tried to pull out and form their other state.
Yeah.
Maryland is the latest.
Maryland?
Yes.
The good folks of Maryland.
So Western Maryland residents, there was a push. They want to pull away from the state of Maryland and form their new state. Essentially, some of the things they're angry about is, of course, gun control laws. Huge. They're saying that Maryland is controlled primarily by the Democratic Party. Baltimore, in particular, has a large population, so they're getting a lot of Democratic representatives elected. They are forcing and imposing their will on the rural parts of Maryland. and they're tired of their tax dollars going for the high crime cities of Baltimore and refinancing their, quote, same failed policies. So it's interesting. So now you have Maryland that have joined pushes in Arizona, Michigan, Colorado, California. They've all recently had these pushes to form another state. Last year, 11 Colorado counties had a push to secede from Colorado. 5 of those counties voted in November to approve a new state. So I can't think of a time, and I don't remember reading or studying a time in U.S. history where you've had an open talk of secession, unless you're talking about the Civil War,
right.
and that was states seceding from the Union. Here you have counties trying to secede from states, but there's also a lot of talk and push and votes and committees being held throughout the country on constitutional conventions and having a convention of states. So we live in very
turbulent,
interesting. I was going to say interesting,
turbulent,
interesting times, and I think it's. I really wonder where this is going to go. People are obviously frustrated, and there are governments that are not allowing a forum for their residents to properly vent frustration, and people are not being properly represented. So is the fix to redistrict? In some of these states, I know that that's not going to be popular with the party in power.
Whichever one it is. But is it the best thing to do if you're talking about ensuring proper representation to your people? I think everything needs to be looked at. I mean, listen, I am so glad that because it's sending a message.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sending a message in a big way. And a lot of the stuff falls under the radar because mainstream media doesn't cover it, which drives me absolutely insane. And when they do cover it, they almost kind of make fun of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, those lunatics in 11 counties in Colorado, those crazy 11 counties. I say it all the time. You want to call one person crazy because they act, that's one thing. But when you have 11 counties getting together and saying, no, we want out, you guys are nuts, there's something to be said about that movement. And we're in a time and place where it's happening more and more, and it took just one, and I forget which state it was. Somewhere, I want to say it was somewhere in Louisiana that wanted to secede from Louisiana in the Union, I think, after the last election. But it only took that spark of people, and what this does is this gets the message. This gets the message that we're upset, we're angry, you're taking away our rights, you're taking away our liberties, and you, the party in power, it's been more Democratic parties in power in those areas that are taking the hit for this, are allowing this to happen. You're not representing my rights, and we want to.
But think about it. The conservatives, and this isn't a knock on liberals or Democrats or progressives. This is simply my own observations. Conservatives and Republicans are more in tune with infringements on their individual liberties than progressives or Democrats or liberals are. And I think that's just kind of a function of the way things are, because progressives and the Democratic Party typically believes in a larger government, a government solution to problems, throw money at problems as opposed to exercising individual liberties, individual initiative, and keeping on an individual or the private level. So it makes sense that most of these movements are a result of individuals pulling away from more liberal governments. Does it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just by the nature of the values of each.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny is 2A gun rights have a tendency to be in the middle of all of it.
Absolutely.
And it's there for a reason.
Yep.
Because people know that if they become disarmed, tyranny will run rampant. And here's the other thing too.
And it has, historically speaking,
it has repeatedly,
over and over and over again.
Absolutely. But here's one of the things too that I think people will miss. You know, everyone calls us the gun nuts, the conservatives. You gun nuts, gun nuts, gun nuts.
Speaking of gun nuts, this segment brought to you by Patriot Ordnance Factory, official rifle of Sackheads Radio.
POFUSA.com. Tell them the Sackhead sent you. conservatives are so concerned about following the rule of law and doing the right thing that we won't just keep them illegally. I mean, some will, but you know what I mean? There's that urge of, hey, you know what? We want to make the state right, so we're right. That way the state's following the law. We want our state to represent what's true to the Constitution, so we are within that. So we aren't these criminal outlaws. We don't want to be these criminal outlaws. And I think that's enormous. I think that really says a lot about the two parties, or the differences between liberals and conservatives.
The philosophies.
Yeah, the philosophy is huge. And I applaud all these states that are sending out that message. I absolutely love it.
And I'm spent.
2 hours flies so fast.
Was that 2 hours? I thought we were just up against another break.
No, that's 2 hours, my friend.
No, it's not. So we'll be back after these messages.
We will be back next Wednesday night.
After
these messages.
Right. We'll be back
next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 on the East Coast.
From
Check
the shop.
us out. SackheadsRadio.com. We're on Twitter at Sackheads and Facebook. And yes, we will be back next week from the shop.
From the shop.
Here on the Sackheads Radio Show. Thank you so much for listening. Kill the